I went from this big, over 2,000 square foot, really nice new home in Houston to living with my in-laws to living in a teeny tiny 2-bedroom apartment so that we could start over and, become entrepreneurs and start his business. And then
hello out there. We are talking to a great empowered women. We have Anna Kelley. Wait till you hear her story. I just love it. Welcome to the show, Anna.
Thank you so much for having me, Vicky. I'm excited to be here this morning.
Let's start from what happened when you moved.
Okay, great. So in 2007, I relocated from Houston, Texas, where I am from, to a little town right outside of Hershey, Pennsylvania. So I went from big city to little bitty community where my husband is from so that we could start his chiropractic business. And we had gotten married in 2000 and really spent 7 years just paying down his chiropractic college loan. So I'm sure for many of your listeners, you've probably had to deal with school debt. And it took us a long time just to get out of that debt. And so we decided to come here and to start his business. At that point, it was a little bit scary because we started his business, Vicky, with over $700,000 in debt. Ooh. Between a small business loan and equipment loans and a building to practice out of, we went into significant debt. And so we sold a big house in Houston, and I thought, how in the world are we just going to, survive? So when we first moved here, instead of leasing a building, we bought a building that had tenants with it, apartments above the practice. And the reason we did that was just to think, how can we kind of save money on the lease expenses? And I worked for a big company, a big insurance company in Texas, and had a 6-figure job. And so we had depended on that income. And when we moved here, they did not want to let me work from home. So I, went to my boss and, the uplines and said, I know I can do this. Will you please give me an opportunity to show you that I can be as productive working from home as I am in the office, and just give me a few months to try it out. So they gave me a 3 to 6 month trial to see if I could keep my job and if I could work from home. And so that was kind of the start of us moving to Pennsylvania.
If I could go back, I would definitely start with units, then go into progressively start going up as you're living in it. So,
absolutely. And that's exactly what I did. So we lived actually with my husband's parents for a year, which was very humbling, but it set us up for being able to put everything into that practice, figure out whether I was going to be able to keep my work from home job. And after a year, I was like, okay, my job said I can keep my job and work from home. And so then we bought an FHA 4-unit apartment building. So, I went from this big, over 2,000 square foot, really nice new home in Houston to living with my in-laws to living in a teeny tiny 2-bedroom apartment so that we could start over and, become entrepreneurs and start his business. And then, as we talked about before, the market crashed. And when that market crashed, my job became unstable. And so I had to become resourceful and figure out, what can I do to make a little extra money in case I lose my job? And at that point, my husband's business really wasn't bringing in much more than our overhead because the overhead was so high. And I bought another little 4-unit building with a 401k loan so that I could just have enough for, cover our mortgages and definitely be able to cover food for our kids at that point. And that little did I know, doing that for self-preservation and just making sure that we could make ends meet really led to me becoming a full-time, real estate investor and a multifamily entrepreneur a few years later.
We as women, we like security. You just did it. You didn't even, it doesn't seem like you even thought twice. This is what we're doing and we're just doing it. That's what it takes. Yeah. That's exactly what it takes, is coming up with your plan and just doing it.
Thank you so much. And, it's one of those things. At that point, I had a 3-year-old and a 6-month-old. And as much as I was very driven and to climb the corporate ladder and thought that I was going to be this, corporate career woman and wanted to just move up, once I had a baby, all I wanted to do was be a mom. And I just wanted to stay home with those kids. And so my resourcefulness was like, how can I help my husband's business to get where it needs to be so he can make the money and I can stay home? That was really like my, at that point, it was a struggle for a few years just to work my job, raise my kids. I had 2 more children at that point, build his business. And I wanted to start making more money so that I can more quickly be home. And so, 7 years into this thing, about 5 years ago, I decided things are not really changing to be able to be home with my babies. So what can I do? And what am I passionate about? And I realized over the 7 years of having tenants and a few rental properties that I really loved it. And we had made these buildings worth significantly more than we bought them for because we put tons of time and sweat equity into fixing them up and learning how to, manage properties and do rehabs. And I figured out with pen to paper that if I could just borrow the equity from my buildings, I could use that to continue to buy over and over. And so it wasn't really, Vicky, until 5 years ago that I really started thinking like an entrepreneur and thinking, I can really be successful if I just focus for the next 5 years and give it all I got. And I did pen to paper and figured out it was going to take me about 60 units of real estate really to get that 6-figure income and build a multi-million-dollar portfolio that would allow me that everyday passive income while I'm sleeping, whether I buy another property or not. And I just literally retired, gave my notice 2 weeks ago. So my last day at my 20-year career is in 2 weeks on May 16th, thanks to building a business through real estate. Thank you.
Women that are out there now and they're going through what you were at, they're struggling from paycheck to paycheck. They're, they have their kids. There might be some single moms, single dads, but what advice would you give them? Because it does take time and determination and whatnot. What would you say to those women that are out there listening?
I have found that really, I think the key is knowing your why, being passionate about your desire and why you want to be an entrepreneur, what it's going to buy for your family. For me, it was, I know if I give a few years of working 70, 80 hours a week, then I'm going to buy those last few years home with my kids where we're going to have true financial freedom. And so looking at your plan every day and saying, okay, I'm this much closer, I'm this much closer, I'm this much closer. And just having that grit and determination that no matter what obstacles come, I am going to jump over them and I am going to do it the next day. And, maybe today I had a really rough, bad day and I got nothing done. Well, tomorrow I'm going to do at least one thing to move me closer to my dreams and to be excited about that. So even if the timeline isn't perfect and it's not working out, if you get down and pessimistic, it's easy to fold because, as you know, more than 90% of businesses fail the first year. And then of the 10 that survive, most of those close down within 5 or 7 years because life is tough. And especially as a woman and having your children and having so many responsibilities, unless you just have that vision and that grit and determination that you're going to keep moving forward and you are going to succeed, it's very difficult.
Well, thank you so much, Anna, for being here and speaking with me. I think your testimony is very, very powerful, and it just shows that if you set your mind to do something, you will do it. Thank you again for being on the show.
Thank you so much, Vicky. It was my pleasure.